Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtapraeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, title Contents of the Gita Summarized. 12th verse. Natva evaham jatu nasam Natvam neme janadipaha Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha Sarve vayam atah param Natva evaham jatu nasam Natvam neme janadipaha Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha Sarve vayam atah param Natva evaham jatu nasam Natvam neme janadipaha Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha Sarve vayam atah param. Word to word meaning. No, never. Tu, but. Eva, certainly. Aham, I. Jatu, at any time. No, did not. Asam, exist. No, not. Tvam, you. No, not. Ime, all these. Jana Adipaha, kings. No, never. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. No, not. Bhavishyamaha, shall exist. Sarve Vayam, all of us. Ataha Param, hereafter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Purport. In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad as well as in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, by His plenary portions, alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. Nityo nityanam chetanash chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman tam atmastam ye anupashyanti dhiras tesham shantihi shashvati netaresham. The same Vedic truth given to Arjuna is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that He Himself, Arjuna, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme individual person, and Arjuna, the Lord's eternal associate, and all the kings assembled there are individual eternal persons. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. The Mayavadi theory that after liberation, the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya or illusion, will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the supreme authority. Nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state support herein. Krishna clearly says that in the future also the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna's is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality were not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much, even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual, but material. Even accepting the argument that the individuality is material, then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways. An impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all the four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in this verse is conventional and that it refers to the body. But previous to this verse, such a bodily conception is already condemned. After condemning the bodily conception of the living entities, how was it possible for Krishna to take place a conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, individuality is maintained on spiritual grounds and is thus confirmed by great acharyas like Sri Ramanuja and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as a Supreme Personality Godhead have no bona fide access to the great literature. The non-devotee's approach to the teachings of the Gita is something like that of a bee licking on a bottle of honey. One cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by devotees. No one else can taste it, as it is stated in the 4th chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of God. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of Gita is a most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of individual soul and of the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas as mentioned above. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padahan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dheena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody once again to the daily Bhagavad Gita classes. So until now we've seen that the Kauravas and the Pandavas have assembled on the battlefield, and Arjuna has asked Krishna to bring the chariot to the center. Arjuna takes a look at everyone present on the battlefield, all his relatives around, and then he goes into the state of the dilemma where he does not want to fight. And he gives a lot of reasons to Krishna why he doesn't want to fight, and then he throws away his Gandiva and sits down. And now Krishna has begun to give the instructions of the Gita. So we've seen that Lord instructs Arjuna. He gives this particular verse is a counter for Arjuna's first reason for not fighting. So if you all remember, there are 4 reasons why Arjuna didn't want to fight. So the first one is compassion. Arjuna felt compassion towards all his relatives who were present on the battlefield. And the second one is a reason for enjoyment. So he felt that even if he was victorious on the battlefield, even if they won the battle, there wouldn't be anyone present, anyone left to enjoy the kingdom with. He was fighting for the people. And when everyone is dead, then who would he enjoy it with? So this was Arjuna's second reason for not being able to fight. And the third reason is sinful reactions. So Arjuna felt that if he killed all these warriors on the battlefield, then he would have to incur the sinful reactions for killing them. And the fourth reason was the destruction of dynasty. So Arjuna thought that if he killed all the elders, in the battle, there were a lot of people who came to fight with the elders of the family. So if he killed all these elders, then it would lead to the contamination of the family members. It will lead to the production of unwanted progeny, unwanted population known as the Varna Shankara. So, and this would eventually lead when the society is crowded with unwanted people, unwanted population, then eventually it will lead to the destruction of the society. So these were the 4 reasons. So now this particular verse is a counter for Arjuna's first reason, compassion. He felt compassion towards his relatives. So Krishna now gives a counter to this reason. So with no solution to the dilemma, Arjuna, he had no solution to all this situation that he's in. So he surrenders unto Krishna. He says, Shishyaste shadimam tvam prapannam. He surrenders unto Krishna, and then now Krishna takes the role of a spiritual master, and he begins instructing Arjuna. So Arjuna, he directly goes to reprimanding Arjuna. He starts chastising Arjuna instead of, showing some compassion. He directly goes to chastising Arjuna. So in the previous verse we read 2.11, it goes like this: Asocyan anavasochastvam prajna vadamsa bhashase gatasun agatasumscha nanu shochanti panditaha. So here Krishna is telling, you are speaking like a pandit. Arjuna gives so many reasons why he shouldn't fight. And he spoke just like a pandit. He had all the knowledge, all the scriptural knowledge, and he spoke just like a pandit. But then he was lamenting for something that is not worth lamenting for. Gatasun and Gatasun. So Asun means life. So he was worried about those things which are living and what are dead. So Krishna is saying, you don't have to worry about these things. You don't have to worry about things that are there and what are lost. So one must always remain equipoised in all conditions. So that is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Matar Swarshastu Kaunteya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkha Dagha Agama Paino Nityas Tam Stitikshasu Bharata. So Krishna tells, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and the disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So this is the message. What we understand, one must learn to tolerate these ups and downs in life. We must tolerate these non-permanent appearances of happiness and distress. So thinking about it, there is so much of depth in this shloka. We see that during the summertime, it's the water, we relish the water. the water that we take bath or we take a shower, we relish it. But at the same time, during the winter, we cannot stand the water. We would stay away from taking a shower. So we see this is the water remains the same in both these conditions, but the only difference is our sense perception. So, but it doesn't matter whether it is summer or winter, the mother has to enter into the kitchen and cook for the family, or else they will starve. And at the same time, it doesn't matter whether it's summer or winter, the devotee must go to he must take a shower early morning, wake up and take a shower early morning. So whatever it is, the highs and lows in life, the ups and downs may come and go, but then one must remain tolerant. One must learn to tolerate all these ups and downs in life. So that is the message that Krishna is trying to give in this particular verse. So today we'll try to understand, we go more in depth and try to understand this verse. So he says that neither all these kings, nor you, nor me will cease to exist. So we are existing now, we were existing in the past, and Krishna says, Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha. Bhavishya, even in the future we will not cease to exist. So Krishna is talking about the eternality of the soul. We are all eternal living beings. So people of this age, we have this misconception that this life is meant to enjoy. It is meant for enjoyment. There is this very common term, one must eat, drink and be merry. So many believe you only live once. We have this one life, you only live once, and we must make the best out of it. And after death, we are either buried or we are burned to ashes, or some animal may attack us and we eventually become the stool of the animal. So, but Krishna denounces this idea. He says that we are not this body. So obviously we know that this body is not eternal. This body is very fragile. We know it is a very fragile entity, and once one fatal disease and we are crippled, we are paralyzed. So we see how fragile this body is. So then what is Krishna talking about in this verse? He is talking about the spirit soul. So he says that Krishna is referring to the spiritual identity of the person. He's talking about the spirit soul, and he declares that every living entity is eternal. He says that the living entity is eternal, and Krishna himself is also eternal. As a matter of fact, we are eternally a part and parcel of Krishna. We are all spirit souls who are part and parcel of Krishna. We are his part. Krishna himself tells later in the Bhagavad Gita, Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. The living entities in this conditioned world are all my eternal fragmental parts. We are all part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna himself says that in the Bhagavad Gita. And he uses the term Sanatanaha. The meaning of Sanatana is eternal. We are all eternal parts of Krishna. So the Lord is eternal, the Atma, the soul, is also eternal. But nevertheless, there is a difference between the soul and the super soul, between the soul and the individual soul and the Supreme Lord. So what is the difference? We are minutely eternal, whereas Krishna is infinitely eternal. We are minute entities, very tiny, and Krishna is supreme. He is huge. He is the largest thing that is out there. Krishna is infinite and we are infinitesimal. So our consciousness is also similarly limited, whereas Krishna's consciousness is unlimited. So therefore, even though both of us, the individual soul and the super soul, have these same qualities, but the quantity, based on the quantity, there is a gulf of difference. So we see that we can take the example of how a drop of water is totally different from the ocean, the water present in the ocean, even though the quality may be same. So if we observe the qualities of a drop of water, it will be similar to the quality of the water which is there in the ocean. So for example, say a doctor wants to analyze the blood sample of yours. So he would just take a drop of blood. He wouldn't want to extract all the blood from the body. Just a drop of blood is enough for him to understand the composition of the blood in our body. So similarly, with the drop of a drop of water from the ocean, we are able to understand the composition of the water which is present in the ocean. So we understand that therefore both of us, the individual soul and the supreme soul, are same in qualities, but the difference is in the quantity. We are atomic, we are very tiny, whereas Krishna is Vibhu. He is infinite, he is very huge, Vibhu and Anu. So simultaneously there is oneness and difference between us and God, and this is known as the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference. Achintya means inconceivable, Bheda means difference, and Abheda is oneness. So this is the inconceivable, simultaneous, unconceivable oneness and difference between us and the Lord. So you must understand, the Lord and us, we may be same in terms of quality, but based on the quantity, we are poles apart. So if someone asks this question, is the Atma and God the same? We must say that the answer must be yes and no, simultaneous oneness and difference. It cannot be totally yes or it cannot be totally no. The Advaita philosophy of Shankaracharya, a very common philosophy that you must have heard about, Advaita philosophy. So they say that yes, all living entities, eventually they end up becoming one with God, or they are gods. And the Dvaita philosophy says that the living entity is totally distinct from God. And so Lord Chaitanya, the founder of our movement, he harmonized both the Dvaita philosophy and the Advaita philosophy. And he introduced the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which says that the soul is the same as God in Tattva, in the quality, whereas they are different in terms of the quantity. It's just as how we give the example of a drop of water is similar in terms of quality, but different in terms of the quantity. If you chemically analyze, you understand the difference between the two. So there is no question of difference between them in terms of the quantity. So Lord Krishna is now emphasizing on the eternality of the soul. He says that all living entities at some point in the future cannot become gods. He says clearly. He says in the sloka, "Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha." Even in the future, we will all remain eternally individuals. We will maintain our individuality. Our individuality can never be destroyed. So this is the point that he's trying to make. So neither at some point the Advaita philosophy believes that we were all gods once upon a time, and then at some point we broke apart from God, and then we fell into illusion, and then we took up this body of the living entity. So we can now, from this, Krishna completely denounces this fact, and he says that this is not, we are not this body, we are the soul, and the soul is individual, eternally individual. So if the Advaita philosophy puts across this statement, we always have a counter for this. We just have to ask a few questions. So if you are God, then you come under the influence of Maya, and that means Maya must be stronger than you. That means Maya is stronger than God, because you claim to be God. But then God is the most powerful. We know that all scriptures point to the fact that God is the most powerful. Then there can be nothing more powerful than God, and so the illusory energy of the that we are in would also be more powerful than God. So we can put across this statement that if the Lord is under the illusion, then how can he be the most powerful person out there? So it's not possible. God, a living entity cannot be equated with God. So therefore, in these words, the Mayavadi and the Advaita philosophy is proved incorrect. So now there is an important verse that will help us understand this shloka 2.12 in a better way. So the sloka goes like this: Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yovitadati kaman tam atmastam ye anupashyanti dhiras tesham shantihi shashruti netaresham. So this verse is from the Katha Upanishad. So there are two terms, Eka and Bahu. Eka is one and Bahuvachan is many. So this verse talks about how Krishna, the Eka, he is also eternal and conscious. So Nityo Nityanam Chetana Chetana. Nitya is eternal, Chetana is conscious. So it says that one entity Eka, he is also eternal and conscious, whereas the Bahunam, the living entities, are also eternal and conscious. The only difference is the extent of the consciousness. Our consciousness is limited, whereas Krishna's consciousness is unlimited. So we are same in quality, whereas there is a difference in the quantity. Krishna is the chief, the maintainer of all the living entities. He is the supreme eternal. He is the the overpowering, the overseer of all living entities. He is the maintainer of all the living entities. And then the sloka goes on to say, Tam Atmas Tam Ye Anupashyanti. So he is also the one who is seated in all our hearts. He is seated in everyone's hearts. Krishna himself says, Ishvaraha sarvabhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati. So Brahman sarvabhuta. So he says that Krishna is the one who's seated in all the living hearts and living entities' hearts, and he's the one guiding all the living entities. So and anupashyanti dhira. So he is perceived. This Lord of ours is only perceived by those who are dhira. Dhira is the one who is undisturbed, and the adhiras are the ones who are disturbed. Usually the entities existing on the material platform, they are the adhiras, and the entities on the spiritual platform are the dhiras. So dhira and adhira, and there's a very nice verse and a very nice prayer to the to six personalities that we will go more deeper into. It goes like this: Krishnot kirtana gana nartana paro premamritambo nidhi dhira dhira jana priyo priyakaro nirmatsaro pujito Shri Chaitanya Kripabaro Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavahantarako Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako. So this prayer is to six personalities. It's about this prayer is about the qualities of six personalities. They're known as the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. So they were the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, who we had spoken about earlier, the founder of our movement. So it talks about how these personalities were always chanting the holy names of the Lord, and they were very dear. They were very popular among the dhiras, the gentle people, as well as the adhiras, the ruffians. So they were known between them. They were popular between these two. That is because they were non-envious of anyone. So this is a very important point here. These personalities were non-envious, and this is the point to be noted here. If one has to remain undisturbed, he must be non-envious of everyone around. So this is the note to be a point to be taken down. It doesn't matter what our situation may be in life, between our family members or between our friends or between our colleagues. It doesn't matter. One must always have the faith that Krishna will protect us. Krishna, we just have to trust Krishna, and whatever happens, Krishna will always be there to take care of things. And when one is on this platform, then he becomes non-envious. It doesn't matter what happens, he knows that Krishna will take care of everything. And then one eventually comes out of this situation of enviousness. So faith in Krishna helps develop non-enviousness, and being non-envious, one becomes undisturbed. So we understand the flow. So this particular prayer talks a lot about the qualities of these Goswamis. A couple of important things that we can take down. They were always chanting the glories of the Lord. They were very popular among the good as well as the wicked people. They were very dear to the Lord. And their life's mission was to distribute the message of Krishna and to deliver all the living entities. So we understand one who is on the transcendental platform, he is always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. They are always engaged in performing devotional activities, bhakti. And that is the quality of a dhira. A dhira is undisturbed in the midst of any form of provocation. And one who is adhira, he cannot even perceive the Supreme Lord who is present within our hearts. So Lord Brahma, in a very nice prayer, he talks known as the prayer known as the Brahma Samhita. So there's a particular shloka which goes like this: Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya guna swarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So this prayer is from the, like we said, the Brahma Samhita, where Lord Brahma offers these prayers to Lord Krishna, and he says that only the pure devotees are the ones who can perceive the Lord who is present in their hearts. So first we must become a pure devotee. As Brahma says, one must become a pure devotee to be able to see the Lord within their hearts. And how do we do that? One must first become adhira. Just like one must develop a non-envious quality, and that can be done when one is undisturbed. And how do we see Krishna? Krishna cannot be seen with these eyes. These eyes are material eyes. They cannot be. Krishna's spiritual in nature, and hence we must develop eyes that are spiritual in nature. Only then we will be able to see Krishna. So, So in this particular shloka that we had just gone through, it goes like this: Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. So Bhakti Vilochana, Premanjana Churita. One must use the ointment of love. Only when the ointment of love is smeared across the eye can one perceive the Lord. So this is the way one can see the Lord. And how do we get this ointment of love? It is not something that can be got anyway. We cannot purchase it anyway. It has to be earned. And from where do we get it? Who is the one who can give this? Who do we earn it from? The spiritual master. The spiritual master is the one who can give us this ointment of love. So very famous shloka, Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So this is a translation. I was born in the darkness, ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge, and I offer my respectful obeisances unto that spiritual master. So the spiritual master is the one. He is the one who can apply the ointment of love and help us transcend from the platform of ignorance to the stage of knowledge. So we've all heard stories of great personalities like Prahlad Maharaj, who always chanted the glories of the Lord, and he could not only could see the Lord within his heart, he could personally see the Lord present before him. So that is the position of a great exalted personality. And how was he able to reach this position? Because he was always constantly thinking of the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj was known for being able to remember the Lord in any situation. So you must have heard the stories of Prahlad Maharaj, where his father, the demon Hiranyakashipu, put him through a lot of difficulties, put him under an elephant and put him in a room full of snakes and put him in boiling water and so many things, put him in fire and threw him down a hill. But still he could remember the Lord throughout all these difficulties of his. And this was possible because of the remembrance of the Lord. And how was he introduced to this? The spiritual master was the one. His spiritual master, great sage Narada Muni, he was the one who introduced him. Prahlad Maharaj got this knowledge even before he was born. Even when he was in the womb of his mother, Narada Muni gave the instruction. So we understand how potent and powerful the instruction of a spiritual master is. Even before Prahlad Maharaj was born, he was given the instructions. So this spiritual master's instruction is so powerful that it can pierce through matter and enter our hearts. So that is the potency of the instruction and the guidance of a spiritual master. So the spiritual master is the one. He is the one who gives us this devotional attitude towards the Lord. He applies the ointment of love. But then where do we find this spiritual master? There are two spiritual masters that we know of. The first one is the Lord himself, Krishna, who is seated in our hearts. Krishna is known as Chaitya Guru. He is the one who is seated within our hearts, and he is the one guiding us. So one must wholeheartedly pray to the Lord, asking for guidance. And when we do that, when we sincerely pray to the Lord, the Lord himself sends the spiritual master. The spiritual master is not different from Krishna. The spiritual master is a manifestation of Krishna himself. And he descends to this material plane to deliver the living entities. So we understand that there is no difference between the spiritual master and Krishna, and he must be respected just like Krishna. And how do we approach this spiritual master? Once you know that there is such a spiritual master, how do you approach him? There is a very famous shloka from the Bhagavad Gita. Tat viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So this is a translation. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. These realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So we understand that to learn the truth, we must approach someone who has already understood the truth. From all scriptures, we can conclude that the truth, the absolute truth, is Krishna himself. And so we must approach we need to approach a bona fide spiritual master who has understood the science of Krishna. One who has understood the science of Krishna can impart that science unto the disciple who is seeking for this knowledge. So our goal is to understand that Krishna is, to understand Krishna, and the spiritual master is the one who will give us Krishna. And so we understand three main things. First, one must surrender unto the spiritual master, pranipatena. One must inquire from him submissively. And one must be submissive and render service unto the spiritual master. So submission and service are the keys to please the spiritual master. And by doing this, the spiritual master will impart the knowledge unto us. So it mustn't be just any normal guru that you may find around. You mustn't go around taking shelter of any spiritual master. It must be a bona fide spiritual master who is part of a disciplic succession. In this Kali Yuga, we find a lot of spiritual masters. Such people, they can be compared to a shallow river. Say, for example, it is a very sunny day and it's boiling hot, and you want to relax, you want to cool down. You cannot. You find a shallow river and you try to jump into it, and what would happen eventually? You would break your head. A shallow river would lead to you breaking your head. You would get hurt. So that is why any spiritual master that is you may find around can be compared to a shallow river. One will eventually end up in misery. So one must approach a bona fide spiritual master who is part of the disciplic succession. And why is it so? Because Krishna himself tells us in the Bhagavad Gita. So he tells, Evam parampara praptam imam rajashayo viduhu. So he tells that one must, this supreme knowledge has been passed around, passed through a disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam. It has been coming through a disciplic succession. And that is why one must approach a spiritual master who is part of a bona fide parampara, who has been carrying the message of Lord Krishna, and it has been passed from guru to shishya, and that shishya becomes a guru and then passes on. That way the knowledge has to come down. This way the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is preserved. It is pure and it remains untainted. It is authoritative. And so by the spiritual master's mercy, one can attain the lotus feet of Krishna. And this is the only way, because this is why Krishna has emphasized so much. If it wasn't important, Krishna wouldn't have spoken about the disciplic succession. But in the Bhagavad Gita, the 4th chapter, Krishna has spoken about the disciplic succession. It is important for us to attain this knowledge through a bona fide disciplic succession. So similarly, even Arjuna, he completely surrenders unto the Lord, and he takes the guidance of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna, taking up the role of spiritual master, delivers Arjuna, but at the same time he takes this opportunity to deliver all the living entities. He's delivering all of us through the message of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. And we just have to take this opportunity that we have to transcend beyond this material plane that we exist on, this mode of ignorance, and attain spiritual perfection, to find our way back home, back to Godhead, and take shelter of the Lord, take shelter of our Master. So being with Krishna is our true position. We are all spiritual entities. Our job is to go back to that spiritual platform and render service unto the Lord, to attain that abode of the Lord and be with the Lord and render service unto the Lord. It is just like how we cannot take shelter anything that we find around. We must take the shelter of the Lord, because by taking shelter of the Lord, we also attain peace. We also attain complete unlimited pleasure through that process, because the Lord can be compared to the root of a tree, where if you water the root of the tree, the entire tree gets nourished. If you cannot water the leaves or the fruits or the flowers or the stem separately. The root must be watered, and then when the root is watered, all the parts of the tree are nourished. So similarly, by serving the Lord, one eventually attains complete peace. One attains that state of being undisturbed. So all that we have to do is just find our way back home, back to Godhead. And the solution is here. This Bhagavad Gita is the solution. It has all the directions. The Bhagavad Gita is just like a treasure map. It has the directions to attain the treasure. And that treasure is the Lord Himself. And all we have to do is just take the instructions from the Bhagavad Gita. This body that we have been given is the greatest gift that we have. And we have to use this gift after many lifetimes, 8.4 million species that are out there, and we've now got this body of a human being. And so this is the greatest gift that we have got now, and we use this gift to find that treasure that we have. And that treasure is Krishna. Not every treasure that is out there is gold and silver. Krishna is the real treasure, and we must find Him first. So that must be our goal of life. So many points that we've got now from this discussion of ours. We are not this body, we are the soul. The soul is eternal, and we must not lament for the body. Our duty is to serve the Lord, and to perceive Krishna, one must become a devotee. To become a devotee, one requires mercy of the spiritual master, and by rendering service and being submissive to the spiritual master, inquiring from the spiritual master, one progresses on this path. And Krishna is our real treasure. Our only goal is to find Krishna, and we must not stop until we find this goal of ours. So I would like to pause today. If anyone has any questions, you can ask anything from this lecture. You may ask. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय और भक्तवृंद की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। कृष्ण। So that's what. So Arjuna had compassion for the body of, like he had compassion for his relatives, without understanding the fact that these relatives, even if they give up this body of theirs, in the next life they would get a higher destination. These are personalities who lived a pious life, and then eventually personalities like Bhishma, Dronacharya, they were all great personalities, lived pious lives. So in the next life of theirs, they would get a higher destination. They would go to the heavenly planets. So why does Arjuna have to lament for that? So that is the question that the Lord is asking. Even if they give up their body, the soul is never destroyed. The soul is eternal, and that soul will take a new body. So that soul always remains, and it is that particular soul is now getting a higher destination. Why would he lament for something that is getting a better position in its next life? So that is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. Do not lament for this body of ours, because the soul is what matters, and that soul now is getting a higher destination. So personalities like Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, they were all great personalities who, they were all, lived a very pious life of a Kshatriya, and eventually they will take up. They will go to the transcend to the higher planetary systems. So that is why Krishna is asking, why would he lament for something that is not worth lamenting for? Something you must remain undisturbed in such a situation instead of lamenting. Why would you, feel bad for someone who is getting a higher destination? So I hope that clears it. Hare Krishna.